we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. There is no fear. There is no fear. There
is no fear. Not here, not in Tennessee. No way, no how. The number one ranked Tennessee Volunteers go defend that freshly minted ranking in the most hostile of environments down in Georgia, Athens, between the hedges. Whoa, what a Saturday we have coming. There is no fear for these Tennessee Vols. They are on fire and on top of the college football world. Friends, gamblers, sports enthusiasts, it is time. It is finally time for a brand spanking new episode of Nall or Nuthin. I'm your host, Jason Nall. Glad to join you again this week, whether you're catching us on your FM dial on 101.3 The Buzz here in Cleveland, Tennessee, or maybe on WNWS TV at WNWS.com out of Jackson, Tennessee, or maybe even our YouTube channel. That's Nall or Nuthin. Just search Nall, Nall, or Nuthin, Nuthin, and like and subscribe to that Nall or Nuthin YouTube channel. Big week, biggest week in years, even bigger than that Alabama week when Tennessee took down Alabama after 17 years of despair. It is time now to find out, does this Tennessee Volunteer team have the mettle of so many teams before? Maybe long before, but before that great Vol history to take that next step and knock off the Georgia Bulldogs. Tennessee catching 8 points on the road this week, even ranked number one by the College Football Playoff Committee. They are still a heavy underdog, over a touchdown in Athens. We will get to that game here in just a little bit. That is the highlight of the upcoming college football weekend, and then we will also cover the NFL, which comes our way on Sunday as we are barreling through both seasons. College now entering the final third of their season. NFL at the halfway point. It is November, and guess what? They remember November. That's what old Houston Nutt for the Arkansas Razorbacks used to say. They remember November, and that's when champions are born, in November. Let's bring our panel in. We have Badlands Brandon and Big Daddy C1000. Badlands, how goes it?
Well, I feel good. I finally turned a corner last week. It was way overdue. I went 5 of 7 last week in my plays that I did. So we finally turned a good corner, and maybe that'll translate into some tickets getting cashed here. But it felt good to get back on the right
Yeah,
track.
we're all about cashing some tickets here on Nall or Nuthin, the show about sports through the lens of legal sports gambling here in Tennessee. And yes, you had a better week last week, and we will certainly discuss that. Big Daddy C, how goes it?
Yeah, I've had a good week. I'm fired up. I'm ready for that Tennessee Georgia game. I'm excited about our trip coming up in about 8 or 9 days. So it's been a good week, and I'm ready for the next week.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that trip. We're going over to the casino at Cherokee Casino over here in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina. We're going to hang out in the sports book, fire down a little bit, eat some good food. That's all coming up, not this weekend, but next. So we'll be sure to zero in on that big trip next week. All right, let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly since we last met. The good, I'm going to give it to you, Big Daddy C1000. Let me see here. I think I've got scratched in that you went 9 out of 10 over the last 5 weeks in your college football picks, and that must mean that war chest is built up and you are ready for this trip to the casino in North Carolina.
Yeah, like I told you, I'd overflowed one boot. I'm on the second boot, and it is they're getting full. But yeah, I've really done well in the college picks. 9 out of 10 in the last 5 weeks. There's nobody in Vegas that puts out games that's probably 90% over the last 5 weeks. I hope there's some people out there that have been riding my big plays and have cashed a few tickets on them.
Well, this ain't your first rodeo, Big Daddy C. Tell me about a hot streak like this. What do you do to try to stay in it and keep it rolling forward?
Well, I'm just doing the same thing every week. Just playing the games I like, and just hope it continues. When it does stop, I'll lay off a bit and cut back. But when you're hot, and you ride them, and I double up when I'm hot. So right now it's good times for me.
Good times for Big Daddy C. 9 out of 10 in the picks that he's put out here on Nall or Nuthin over the last couple of weeks, and it's good. It's good when we get hot. We need to have some hot times to overcome some tough times. That's for sure. So Big Daddy C, he gets a good this week. 9 out of 10. Follow Big Daddy C 1000 on Twitter. We post those pics throughout the week, and you can kind of ride his trend maybe here a little bit. Big Daddy C 9 out of 10 over the last few weeks in college football. Good job. And the bad. Let's talk about the NFL trade deadline that hit just Tuesday of this week. A lot of teams made a lot of moves. That trade deadline used to be kind of a flatliner in NFL, a no big deal, a nothing burger, but it's changed. The trade deadline in the NFL is high drama now, and there's lots of players moving around. But I want to zero in on one particular trade that I thought was particularly bad for the trading team. So the Detroit Lions just 1-6 on the year. They were the team featured on HBO's Hard Knocks, and a lot of people were fired up after watching the preseason for the Detroit Lions play out on TV. Thought they were going to be better this year. Thought they were going to be very competitive. Well, they haven't been very competitive, and they certainly aren't any better. And so here on the trade deadline, what did they do? They trade off I'd say a top five, back into the top five, but definitely a top five tight end talent in the NFL. TJ Hawkinson, one of their big scoring pieces. And who do they trade him to? A divisional rival. That used to never happen. You never saw a player, especially midseason, being traded within the division, and not only a divisional rival. The Detroit Lions trade Hawkinson to the Minnesota Vikings, the leader in the NFC North with a 6-1 record. The absolute opposite record of Detroit, 1-6, trades to 6-1, gives them a high quality NFL tight end, a piece that Kirk Cousins did not already have, and it makes a potent offense in the NFC North and the Vikings even better. So the trade details, the Vikings get TJ Hawkinson and a 2023 fourth round pick. In exchange, the Lions get a 2023 second round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick. Only thing I can discern here is that the Lions weren't willing to pay Hawkinson north of $15 million, which is the going rate for a productive tight end in the NFL. Knew they weren't going to sign him, knew their season was going nowhere, and just unloaded him. But there had to have been other suitors outside of the division where the optics on this wouldn't be quite so bad. I mean, maybe we've got new age general managers now that say, who cares, in division, out of division, it doesn't matter. Well, it used to matter. It used to matter, and you certainly didn't want to do anything to help out anyone in your division. The Lions have done that, and they have given the Vikings, my Vikings, I might add, another offensive piece as they head down the stretch and gear up toward the playoffs. I say my Vikings because I have preseason bets on the Vikings to, one, win the NFC North. They're in good shape there with the Packers flailing and them having already beat the Packers at home. And two, because I had the Vikings to win the NFC in futures bet. So I'm all about the Vikings getting Hawkinson. Great move, Lions. No, pretty bad if you ask me. Pretty bad. Badlands, back in the day, people didn't trade within the division like this. What's changed?
Yeah, this is a play that I just really don't understand. You're having offensive woes anyway at Detroit, and you would think that you might try to trade somebody to actually improve your offense, but they go out and do the exact opposite. They get rid of one of the top scorers for Detroit and they send him to a divisional rival. It makes no sense whatsoever. I don't really understand. I don't know what Detroit was thinking. Maybe they're looking down the road for a possible rebuild, but it just overall just a bad, 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 bad uh, play by the Detroit Lions, especially sending him to an already loaded Minnesota offense.
The Detroit Lions, and their trade deadline move to help out a divisional foe. And the ugly doesn't get much uglier than 49 to rock. And that was the score in the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, between Kansas State and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oklahoma State, just 2 weeks ago, was ranked in the top 10. So does it surprise you that they shut out Kansas State and beat them 49 to nothing? No, sorry, I got that backwards. Kansas State shuts out the former top 10 ranked Cowboys 49 to nothing. Badlands, that's pretty ugly.
No, that's not kind of ugly. That's real ugly. You come in as, a few weeks ago as a top 10 team and your offense is moving, your pass game's good, your run game's good, your defense is making stops. I don't really know what happened, but I can tell you what happened or something interesting that happened to me in that game. The entire rushing, the entire rushing for the entire Oklahoma State team was 58 yards in 4 quarters of football.
Yes, because they were down
How in the
49
hell?
and they had to throw it every time.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm looking at it from a standpoint 58 yards. I'm 34 years old and way out of shape, and I think I could have ran for 58 yards. But I mean, this was a joke. I mean, Kansas State came out hungry in that game. The defense was all over them. And there was no heart in that Oklahoma State team. They were completely down and out. Kansas State hit the gas and laid on them. Mike Gundy, what can we say about him? I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in there at halftime. That would have been probably an interesting conversation to hear with his offense. But just an ugly, ugly performance from Oklahoma State, and that's about as ugly as it gets. And I think that is the biggest blowout in a Power Five probably ever, but that one was definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to add a category this week, and it needs to be worse than ugly. And the worst and ugly needs to go out to Brandon because he picked Oklahoma State. What an awful stinking pick. To correct you, I think the score was actually 48 to nothing, but that was the biggest blowout in all of college football. There were only 2 teams shut out in college football, all of college football this week, and that was one of them. And that was one of Brandon's best bets this week was Oklahoma State. That was an awful pick. I've seen some awful picks from him this week this year when he's beat a 14-point favorite that lost outright by 14 when he beat when he picked Northwestern. He's had some lousy picks, but this one tops them all. This was the worst pick I think I've ever seen in my life. It was awful, ugly, worse than ugly. It was horrible.
Ugly, he says. Badlands, ugly.
Oh, I mean it. I mean it was, and I mean I would like to say if they played that game again, something might change. But I mean it. I should have known something was kind of funky when it was Oklahoma State catching two. I should have known something was going on there, but I didn't expect that, and I don't think anybody.
No, I don't think anybody expected a 48, 49, whatever it was, 40 some odd to nothing goose egg performance out of Oklahoma State in the Little Apple in Manhattan. But I'm telling you, Kansas State's tough, and they're really tough at home. But that was a big old blowout. Let's get our first break. Hey, sports enthusiasts. Hey, sports gamblers. Hey, friends and family, don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's Nall or Nothing brought to you by College Tour X. College Tour X is the premier amateur golf tour in the United States, focusing on the southeastern United States. The players that make up College Tour X are rising amateurs and collegiate players ready to take that next step to be battle tested. So you will see tomorrow's professionals right there on the College Tour X circuit. Go to playtourx.org. If you're an aspiring amateur golfer, check out this tour and see if it's right for you. Also, if you want to follow the live scoring of these amateur events, let's go to playtourx.org. Playtourx.org. All right, guys, college football, big weekend, especially here, the border war between Tennessee and Georgia, which we will get to. But, it's slipping away from us. I always get so excited for college football. And here we are in November. We're in the home stretch. And these are the games that mean the most down the stretch for most of these teams. Let's start with Thursday night affair. Let's go UTEP and Rice. Rice brings back a lot of experience this year. It has not necessarily played out into wins for them. However, Rice a 3.5-point favorite, total 48. I like Rice here. I think it's an opportunity for this senior laden team to play on national television, which certainly doesn't happen very often for Rice. I think they're going to give you their level best. I'll take Rice laying the 3.5. Appalachian State also on Thursday night playing at Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina has definitely taken a step backwards this year after really 2 years ago, the glory season. Then maybe a little regression last year, quite a bit of regression this year. Appalachian State pulled the big upset on the road at A&M earlier this year. They find themselves a 3-point favorite, total 64. Badlands, Brandon, Appy State, always tough. Should they be favored at Coastal Carolina?
Yeah, I would probably have to say they would be favored. That big win they had against Texas A&M shows that they can uh, play good offensive ball and make stops when they have to. Coastal Carolina, I think last year when we did the show, I was real high on Coastal Carolina. I put them
Yeah,
in several of my parlays last year. I still think they're a really good team. However, it's not the same Coastal Carolina team we saw last year. So probably if I was going to play this, I would probably just say they both can score. Might take a chance on the over.
yeah, that's not a bad idea. Appalachian State certainly can score. I think I like Appalachian State here. I think I like both the favorites on Thursday. Rice in the early game, 3.5. Appalachian State laying the 3. And yes, if I was going to dabble with that total, I would be apt to take the over as well. 3 games on Friday night: Duke and Boston College in a ACC affair. Boston College getting 9.5 at home. Duke laying 9.5 on the road. What planet are we on, Big Daddy C? Duke has definitely made strides, played well this year, but are they really worthy of being a 9.5-point favorite over anybody on the road?
Yeah, well, they played good. They got a decent record. I mean, they're almost bowl eligible. But I think I'd have to take Boston College in the points at home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's an in-game bet for me. Maybe Boston College gets behind early and I get more than the 10 points and I can get a backdoor. Nothing really thrills me there. Over under 47.5. Boston College has struggled to score at all this year. UMass and UConn, another game, a little local interest. UConn a 15.5-point favorite, over under 40. It's a big pass burger for me. I got nothing on that one. I'll just say again, it's like kind of what I said with Duke. UConn being favored 15.5 over anybody scares the bejesus out of me. Jim Mora Jr. over there at UConn got them going the right direction, laying 15.5 at home. A game I do like Friday night, and one of my key plays of the week already right here on the board for Friday night. I love the Huskies, the Washington Huskies, in a ranked matchup. Number 24 Oregon State Beavers comes to town. Both teams sit at 6-2. Oregon hot, having won 3 in a row. Oregon State, that is, and Oregon State coming off the bye week. So why do I like the Huskers? It's a quarterback. Michael Penix Jr., the transfer in, has been great, and especially at home this year. I think the Huskers, who had beat Oregon State 9 times in a row until last season, when Oregon State broke that trend and won, I think they get right back to their winning ways at home. Um, I'm going to take Washington laying that 4.5. Do I wish it was under 4.5? Sure. I wish it was about a 2.5 point line, but I'm going to lay the 4.5 and say they can win it by a touchdown or more. Um, Michael Penix Jr., he's the Indiana transfer, averaging, he's got 2,900 yards already this season in passing. And under those Friday night lights, 22 touchdowns so far this year. I just feel like he's going to get it going, and I think the offensive firepower for Washington is too much. So let's lay the 4.5. Let's jump on the Huskies. Late night game on Friday night, Big Daddy C. You know how I like those late night games where you can slide under the covers, turn that TV on, and watch them from the bedroom. Boy, I love them Pac-12 late night games. What are you going to be doing Friday night? You'll still be out on Bill Street by then. You can get that game up for us, right?
No, I'll probably be asleep by the time that one starts. But if you're telling me Washington can put up a point, so I might be trying to take a shot in the over in that one.
Over under 54.5, fairly modest for a collegiate affair. Maybe not a bad idea, but I just think Washington will defend home turf, and I think between the battle between the two 6-2 teams, I think Washington is a team to come out of this game with a 7th win. So I'll lay the 4.5 points on Washington. Jumping to Saturday, big old military matchup. I love them. Air Force laying 7 on the road at West Point at Army. Typically, you want to look at the underdogs first in these military matchups because it just means more for those guys, and they're out there fighting for their brand, for their arm of the service. But I just think Air Force is much the best in this case. No surprises here to either team. They know what the other team's going to try to do. So you want to look at the team with the best athletes and maybe the most experience. That's certainly Air Force. I'll lay the 7, tiny over under of 40.5. I can see that going over the total possibly, but these two teams know each other pretty well. They'll probably have a good defensive scheme for each other. Kentucky at Missouri. Missouri hot, just having won at South Carolina and stopped South Carolina's winning streak. And Kentucky licking their wounds from their visit to Neyland Stadium last week. They find this game a very compelling matchup as the Vegas sports books have set the line at a pick 'em. That means you just have to pick the winner over under 40.5. Badlands Brandon, tell me about this game.
I didn't know this game had moved to a pick 'em, but I can tell you one thing. This just will go ahead and solidify my play. I love Kentucky here. I love Kentucky. I love what they've been able to do. Now, granted, they went into Neyland and got put down pretty hard by Tennessee, but I really do like Kentucky. I like Stoops. I like what he does. Will Levis, Chris Rodriguez, who I would go out and say right now is probably one of the best running backs, not just in the SEC, but maybe in the country as well. I mean, he is tough to stop once he gets going, and they've got a good backup behind him and Cavassier Smoke. So with all those pieces being there, and this is going to be a get right game for Kentucky, especially after that big blowout loss to Tennessee. So I absolutely love Kentucky here. I'll probably load up and take this one.
Our man Badlands, Big Daddy C, he likes Kentucky coming off that loss at Tennessee. He said there'll be no hangover. They're going to get right back after it and likes those Wildcats in a pick 'em. Next game up, let's go Texas Tech at TCU. And man, I'm coming out guns a-blazing early. I like this one. I watched every play of that TCU and West Virginia game last week, and I'm gonna tell you, it was West Virginia's game. They were in it to win it, and they played hard. And TCU looked like they were going to at least not cover the 7-point spread there on the road at West Virginia. Well, things got a little bit crazy at the end of the game. Fourth down, TCU's winning by 3, has the ball, 20 seconds left. They come up just a half yard short of getting a game-ending first down where they could no timeouts left for West Virginia. And what happens? Well, they let the clock run down. They call a timeout. They're on their own. They're on the West Virginia 30-yard line. So they come out the lineup for fourth down in the shotgun, and they're just going to try to draw TCU off the line, or West Virginia over the line to get a first down by virtue of penalty with an offsides, and it worked. Quarterback barks. West Virginia jumps, comes across the line. Quarterback looks at the wide receiver on the far right. Wide receiver takes off. Nobody covers him. He throws it up. Touchdown in the end zone to end the game. They win by 10 on a 4th and a half a yard up by 3. They knew they had a free play. Nobody was covering the wide receiver. They just threw it out there, made an easy touchdown, padded the stats, and covered the spread. Well, I'm telling you, TCU is living on borrowed time. And where I go with this one, I like to see them laughing and scratching, coming in, seeing that they're in number 6 in the playoff poll, feeling good about themselves, and then having to lay 9.5 points to an interconference foe at Texas Tech. I like Texas Tech to win this game. I'm going to throw a little pizza money on Texas Tech at 2.5 to 1 to win the game, but the big money for me goes right here on Texas Tech plus 9.5. I'll take the points. And I'll take Texas Tech. I don't think TCU's for real. I think they almost lost last week, and the score was deceiving by that funky end of the game play that made them cover the spread. Now, I'll tell you this much. If they're up in the fourth quarter by 7, they'll try to find a way to win by more than 9.5. They understand the spread matters. I just don't think they're good enough. I think they lose outright this week. I'll put a little pizza money on the plus 2.5 to 1 on the money line, but the big bet, give me Texas Tech, guns up, plus 9.5. Badlands Brandon, what can go wrong there?
I'm gonna tell you a lot can go wrong right there. I don't like your pick there. I don't think it's a good play. You know, I'll try to get that game up as much for you as I can, but I think that's a bad play. Texas Tech just got worked over pretty good by Baylor last week,
I
and
did.
uh, TCU and Baylor are still yet to play this year. But I still think TCU's got some good offensive pieces, and I think Texas Tech's defense just isn't going to be up for the task. I think TCU.
Well, we will see. I like, give me the Red Raiders. Give me guns up. Give me 9.5. Next up, let's go to Florida and Texas A&M. Florida now coming off of getting beat pretty handily, even though they made a nice comeback with Georgia. They go to A&M, who lost at home. Ole Miss, maybe the most underachieving SEC team of the year, and certainly underachieving for the most highest paid coach outside of maybe Saban. I think now makes more than him. But Jimbo Fisher, what a disappointment. Big Daddy C, Florida, catching 3 at Texas A&M, over and under 55.5.
Yeah, I'm going to say Jimbo still disappoints. I'm going to take Florida in the 3 in this one. It just seems like A&M just can't find a way to win. So I'm going to take Florida and say the 3 is enough to get you a win in this one.
Big Daddy C says take the 3 and Florida. Badlands, Brandon, North Carolina at Virginia. North Carolina outscored, overpowered Pittsburgh last week, and now they find themselves laying 7.5 at a Virginia team that really struggles to score, over under 59.5.
Yeah, I really, really like this game. In that Pittsburgh, North Carolina game, Drake May came out and threw just an absolute gem of a football game. I think he had almost 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was averaging close to 10 yards every time he threw the ball and got a completion. So as my counterpart, Big Daddy C1000 said, ride that trend. They're hot right now. They're playing good ball. Virginia, I think, is going to have a lot of trouble trying to guard those North Carolina wide receivers. So I'm just going to ride the trend and take North Carolina laying the 7.5.
Ride the trend. The trend is your friend. That's your second clown pick of the week by at Badlands Brandon on Twitter. He likes North Carolina laying the 7.5. You know, it's hard to argue against that just because Virginia struggles with the offensive part of the game. I think they were the team last week, Big Daddy C, that lost to Miami in 4 overtimes, 14-12 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so I won't buck you. North Carolina can certainly score the points. I don't think you'll have a problem there offensively for North Carolina. It would have to be a different Virginia team offensively that could come anywhere close to a touchdown against North Carolina. Minnesota at Nebraska. Minnesota Badlands got back on the winning ways last week, and Nebraska once again looked like a turtle. Minnesota laying 16 over under 46.5.
Well, to hell with Minnesota. I've already gotten bit off them twice this year. Screwed Minnesota. I ain't dealing with Minnesota anymore. But, however, with that being said, this is a sports gambling show, so I think this is a Minnesota team that still has some bright spots and can still score and looks good offensively for the most part, especially when their running back's in there and he's healthy and can provide a spark offensively for them. But I don't know. Nebraska's one of these teams you never know what you're going to get. They're like Forrest Gump and a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get from week to week. I would probably stay away from this one, but if I was going to play, I might take a shot on the under just because Nebraska and that offensive unit they have.
I can see that. That would probably be my play as well, under 46.5. Maryland at Wisconsin. Wisconsin a 5-point favorite. Again, Wisconsin yet to hire their new coach. Fired their coach early in the season this year. Over under 50. You would think a no-brainer, take the Badgers at home, but that's a little bitty line. I'm going to steer clear there. Big Ten matchup, Ohio State on the road at the Northwestern Fighting Purple. Ohio State 38 over under 57.5. Big Daddy C.
Yeah, this is going to be another one of my winning picks for the week. You just get on Ohio State and you lay the 38. Everybody knows they're much better. Everybody knows that Northwestern stinks. It might be close for about the first 5 minutes, but Ohio State's just going to put the hammer on them and run it up as high as they want. You take Ohio State here and you'll be a winner. This is my first of 3 college winners I'm giving out this week.
Well, Ohio State having come out number 2 in the college football playoff ranking. They know they just need to win, and they will move along just fine. It's really just a question of how much Ohio State wants to win by. I guess with the fairly low total here of 57.5, you could just assume that maybe Northwestern won't score much. If you get Ohio State to 48 points, that might be enough to win maybe 48-7 or something like that. But man, 38, what a big number. I agree, though. If Ohio State wants to, they can name their number against this Northwestern team. Big Daddy C's big play of the week. He likes the Buckeyes laying 38. Tulane at Tulsa. Tulane, a team I gave out against Memphis a couple of weeks ago. They got there for us. They got off to a really hot start. Kind of held on a little bit, but covered fairly easily. Rocking chair against Memphis. They lay 7.5 at Tulsa. I still like them. I think they're a better team than Tulsa. 7 and a hook on the road. I wish it was 7, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll lay Tulane just a little over a touchdown. Iowa at Purdue. Purdue really has not won their big games this year. They weren't able to beat Penn State on opening night. They weren't able to win a couple of other big games of the year. This is a border war. This is a in-state rivalry. A border war, a long-term rivalry. They're a 4.5-point favorite at home. Over under just 41. Iowa can't score. Give me Purdue. Georgia Tech at Va-Tech. Badlands, Brandon. Georgia Tech is a tough team to figure. They're without a coach. We don't know if prime time may be going that way from Jackson State next year, or prime time might be going to Auburn. Heck, who knows? But they are catching 3 at Virginia Tech, which I think is one of the worst teams in the country. I think I want to dabble with Georgia Tech getting 3 points playing this rebuilding squad at Virginia Tech. Anything you like here, or is it just a pass due to grossness of 2 really bad football teams?
Yeah, this is going to be a pass for me. These are just two football teams that are one of them's in a identity crisis trying to find itself, and the other one just ain't good. Period. So for me, this is going to be a hard pass for me. But I do like what you said though. I might dabble a little on Georgia Tech just to see what happens. It wouldn't be much though.
Yeah, I mean, give me the points for two bad teams, the way I look at it. All right, we're going to catch a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back to finish out this week's college football card. We're going to come right back in here and pick up where we left off with college football, and Badlands Brandon has his third clown pick loaded and ready to go. Baylor at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, 3.5 point favorite at home. 61.5 is the total.
Yeah, this is a Oklahoma team that has had their fair share of bad luck already this year, and I don't see their luck getting much improved here. I will say for Baylor, these young guys that they've got are finally starting to mesh a little bit. Richard Reese, who's the running back, just came off Big 12 Freshman of the Week honors for his performance last week, and everything just seems to be gelling for him right now. And you know, I was on Baylor early and then I jumped off and I got scolded by Big Daddy for jumping off of them. They were my team. He was all upset with me about that. But this week I'm going to jump back on Baylor because I think Baylor is the better of the two teams. I think what they've got going offensively, the defense is starting to play with a little more fire in them. So this is a game for me. I'm going to flip the script and I'm going to take Baylor catching the 3.5.
Well, Big Daddy C, there's your three clown picks from Badlands Brandon this week. Do you love them all or are you flipping them?
No, he'll go 2 out of 3 at best. That's his best shot. Is 2 out of 3.
Well, I need Baylor to win because I'm married to this preseason bet of Baylor over 7.5 wins that Badlands sold me after he was down there talking to the coaches and players right in August, and we're going to need to find a way to win this one and a couple more to get over that season win total. So let's hope he's right. Let's go, Baylor Bears. Okay, moving down the line. Tennessee at Georgia, the most anticipated matchup of the SEC. People kind of looked at the schedule and thought, well, wouldn't it be something if Tennessee was able to beat Alabama and get to the Georgia game undefeated? And guess what? Heupel and company has done just that. I'm going to start it with you, Badlands Brandon. Uh, Georgia now an 8 point favorite. This line has steadily moved down since they prematurely posted it 2 weeks ago. At Georgia at a 13 point favorite. If you like Tennessee 2 weeks ago, you could have bet them getting 13. Now you can only get 8. Over under 66. What do you see in this matchup?
Me and you spoke earlier in the day about this game a little bit, just kind of throwing out what we thought, and you told me that that line had moved down, and I'm going to tell you, we don't need to forget that a few weeks ago Georgia played Missouri and struggled for about the first 2.5 to 3 quarters, and let Missouri stay in that ball game. If that happens again, Tennessee will run it on them, and you know, Tennessee doesn't give me a reason not to take them in this one. They're catching 8 points. Everything would tell you Hendon Hooker's looked amazing. The wide receiving corps look good. Everything has looked good with Tennessee. So if it looks good and it smells like roses, it's probably a good one to take. So I'm going to take Tennessee catching the 8 in this one. I think it's a close game, and Tennessee might have a shot at getting it outright.
All right, Badlands likes Tennessee plus the 8. So the first college football playoff rankings come out. Tennessee surprisingly ranked number 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3. You have to kick on down to about what was Alabama? 6, 5?
6.
6. Alabama number 6. So I'm not surprised that Tennessee was ranked in the top 4. I am surprised, especially considering Georgia is an 8 point favorite in the game. They're ranked ahead of Georgia. But it's a good thing for Tennessee. And I'll tell you why I think it's a good thing. It shows you how much respect the college football playoff committee has for Tennessee is putting them at number 1. Giving them a lot of credit for that win on the road at Pittsburgh early in the year. It was an overtime win, but it was a win on the road, hostile territory. And give them a lot of credit for that win over Bama at home. It means to tell what it tells me is if they can play a close game even without winning between the Hedges and Georgia this week, they've got a great chance to still make the playoff even if they lose. If Georgia goes on to win if Tennessee loses by a small margin, let's just say within 10 points, and Georgia goes on to win the SEC championship, there's a decent chance that Tennessee comes in as the second SEC school in the playoff. If Georgia were to lose the SEC championship to Alabama, there's almost a surefire chance that Tennessee comes in and represents the SEC as the number one seed from the SEC in the playoff because they're ranked number one right now. I think it's a great thing for them to be ranked number one for the long-term chances of them getting in the playoffs. Now, I don't necessarily have a pick in this game. I don't know. I don't know where it goes. I wouldn't put it past Tennessee winning the game, and I wouldn't put it past Georgia's defense having something dialed up that Tennessee's offense had not seen before. Big Daddy C, what do you think about Tennessee being ranked number one? And what kind of chances do you give to the Vols this Saturday in the huge matchup between the Hedges?
Well, I think this one's going to be a lot tougher for the Vols because I think the Vols are going to finally run up against a defense that is for real. This is going to be their first test against a for real defense. I don't know that offense is going to look so potent against Georgia's defense. So I think that's going to cause problems. The second problem, I think it's just a bad omen, just a bad luck. How do they jump Ohio State and Georgia, and they're number one in the bowl polls? I think it's bogus. I think it's just a bad omen for them. I don't think they should have jumped both of them. So I think that's bad. And then you got my buddy Tommy. He goes to bet last week NFL second afternoon games, and he gets over there at 4:00 to bet the 3:00 games. He don't even know what time they start. Then 2 weeks ago, we go over there and watch Alabama, Tennessee, and he sees Alabama's number 3, and he's asking me, well, who's ranked number 1 and 2? So that tells you about Tommy. Well, Tommy loves Tennessee and over this week. Badland loves Tennessee. When you got two bad pickers on the same side, you flip them. So I want Tennessee to win. They're my team. I'm
No,
rooting for them, but I got to flip
no.
them. Everything's going against them. The bad luck, being ranked
Hold,
over Georgia and Ohio State, and you got two bad pickers on them. You got to take Georgia here.
so wait a minute. Hold on one second. I got to. All right, hold on. Wait. You said that Tennessee has not faced a for real defense. You do realize they have played Alabama. Will Anderson, who's probably the best defensive player in all of college football, and for sure the best pass rusher in all of college football, but they haven't faced a defense yet.
They haven't faced one like Georgia, no, in my opinion, no.
Oh, come on. What kind of
Oh, well, I'll tell you this much. I did not look like a traditional Alabama defense in Knoxville that day. But was that Tennessee's offense and the pure explosiveness? Or was that just uncharacteristically unprepared Alabama defense? I don't know. But it certainly didn't look like a normal Alabama defense that day as they scored over 100 combined. Just a great game. The signature game of this weekend, Tennessee at Georgia, 3:30 Eastern. The SEC game of the week. Can't get here fast enough. Let's go Vols. I'm hoping they can pull it out as an 8-point underdog on the road in Georgia. Michigan State, they go to Illinois. Illinois thumped me last week. I tried to take Nebraska plus the points. Illinois kept them at arm's length the entire game. Now they host Sparty. Sparty with a host of players suspended after that tunnel fight after they got pounded by Michigan last week. They did cover for us, though, by half a point. Way to go, Sparty. But now they're getting 17 and a half against an Illinois team that I wouldn't have guessed would have even been favored in this game at the first of the season. Give me Sparty, even though they're down a few players, plus the 17 and a half. Oklahoma State. Oh, we talked about them so much early in the program as the ugly last week. They got to get back on the bus and drive through Kansas again. Now they go to Rock Talk Jayhawk at Kansas. Oklahoma State again, a 2-point favorite on the road at Kansas, over under 64 and a half. Badlands, what did you learn last week that you can apply to this game?
I was getting notifications today from a good buddy of mine that's a big Big 12 guy, and early word out of Oklahoma State is their starting quarterback is going to be out. Um, he's going to be out for this Kansas game. The backup is 95% sure that he'll get the start. So, with that being said, coming off a beating like they took and did that, and the quarterback not being ready to go, this just this just tells me to take Kansas and load up on.
All right, he says Oklahoma State again. Big Day C, you know what that means. We back the truck up and load up on Oklahoma State this week, don't we?
Yeah, of course. They can't play as bad twice. And if Badlands is trying to flip them, you back the truck up. Beep, beep, beep. Back it up.
I just circled that one. I know who I want to need this weekend. All right. Excuse me. Syracuse at Pittsburgh. Syracuse reeling now after the hot start, loser of two in a row. Pittsburgh 3.5 and 48. Notre Dame did a number on Syracuse. Were they just hung over from the Clemson loss, Big Daddy C, or is Syracuse done for the year?
Yeah, that was nasty. That Notre Dame team is really not that good. I don't know if they were hungover or what, but I sure think they got to bounce back and play a little bit better here. I'll give them one more shot. If not, I'll write them off. I like Syracuse here.
All right, keep it with you, Big Daddy C. UCF and Gus Malzahn comes into the Liberty Bowl to play your Fighting Tigers. UCF 3.5 over under 58.5.
Yeah, I'm going to be rooting for my Tigers. I haven't had a whole lot of faith in them this year. If I'm dabbling this one, I'll just taking a shot in the over and hope it's a shootout.
All right, Washington State at Stanford in a big Pac-12 battle. Stanford catching 4.5 at home against Wazoo. Over under 50.5. Give me Stanford and the 4.5 at home. Let's see here. UTSA at UAB. UAB, a pick 'em here over under 52. UTSA was the team of the year last year, not so fast this year. I'll take UAB at home in a pick 'em. Badlands, here's an interesting matchup. So you got Hugh Freeze, who just signed an 8-year extension with Liberty, and they're on the road at my Razorbacks. Razorbacks 13.5 over under 64. Liberty not quite as explosive as they've maybe been in years past. They didn't do too well at Ole Miss last year. Are they going to have any success at Arkansas this year?
Nah, I don't think so. I really don't think they are. I think Arkansas is the much better team here. Um, yeah, I would still say Arkansas is a better team here. Just a lot of woes that they have right now, and um, KJ Jefferson has been playing a lot better.
JJ's playing
The
good.
running game's really, oh, I mean, it does. I mean, he looked good. The running game looks good, and even the defense is starting to show a little bit of fight. And I wouldn't say a lot of fight, but a little bit of fight. So, yeah, I would go with it. I would take Arkansas.
He likes my Hogs, Badlands. Brandon laying the 13.5. Uh, let's see here. Alabama at LSU. And here's something that was surprising. We mentioned earlier Alabama ranked number 6 in the opening football playoff poll. What surprises me, though, LSU is ranked number 10 in that thing. LSU is having a sneaky, successful season under Brian Kelly. It got off to such a shaky start to start off the year with that Florida State game, but now they sit here, I believe, at 6-2 on the season. Uh, Big Daddy C, where do you go with this one? Alabama,
Yeah,
LSU, Alabama 13.5 down in the swamp over under 56.5.
yeah, I think Alabama's going to win. I think Alabama's going to get back on track. The 13 or 13 and a half is a little much, I think. But if I play it, it's got to be Alabama or nothing for me.
Alabama or nothing. Badlands, big SEC matchup. The night game. Night games are always tough down in LSU. Can Brian Kelly keep this close?
No, I don't think it is. I think Alabama's the better team, even though what's his name at LSU, quarterback Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is a good dual threat quarterback. He can beat you with his arm or his leg, but I think you're going to see that big Alabama pass rush with what's his name, Dallas. I can't think of his name. Plays on the other side of Will Anderson. Both of those guys who were big pass rushers, and they're going to stay in LSU's backfield. So I think this is all Alabama.
All right, all Alabama. Now here's Clemson's really last true stepping stone to getting to the ACC championship and then potentially on to the college football playoff. They are at Notre Dame. Notre Dame played a big one last week on the road at Syracuse, their best and most complete game of the year. We know Clemson struggled with Syracuse until late in the fourth quarter to put them away at home. Clemson a small 3.5 point favorite. Over under 44.5. Interesting note on this over under. It opened at 53. It's down 9 points. Why is it down 9 points? Expected to be heavy rain and high winds throughout this game. Um, they kind of beat that under down a little bit low. It's hard to take that knowing you could have got 9 more points on it earlier in the week before the weather forecast hit. And Clemson, I think, is a much better team than Notre Dame, but bad conditions and touchdown Jesus might mean Notre Dame knocked off Clemson. What do you think there, Badlands?
Uh, the weather is going to play a big factor in it, and I didn't even check the weather for that game. But if you say it's going to be high winds and rain, um, you know, it might actually work out to Notre Dame's favor. But when you got just conditions like that, I don't usually expect a lot of scoring with that. Even though Clemson does have that big, high-powered offensive unit, I might just have to go if the weather forecast stays true and just take the under and say the weather causes a bunch of slippery, not favorable passing conditions, and you just take the under.
Yep, maybe so. I mean, they can't make it too low. The weather they're saying is worth at least 9 points. Auburn and Mississippi State. Interesting matchup for a couple of reasons. Auburn went ahead and the worst kept secret and the most anticipated firing in football. They've been ready to fire Harsin since the day they hired him. He was there about a year and a half. They fired him this week. But a shocker, John Cohen, former Mississippi State baseball coach, Mississippi State now current AD, resigns and goes to Auburn to be the AD at Auburn. So I guess now immediately Auburn travels to Stark Patch to play Mississippi State in football. I guess Cohen can just sleep in his own bed on Saturday night. Now the new AD for Auburn. What a weird situation that is. And I thought Cohen was a strange choice for Auburn, at least from the way I feel about it. Mississippi State 13-point favorite, over under 51.5. I would think the Bulldogs be pretty fired up in this one, Badlands. What do you think?
Oh, I think so. And for those of you that don't know who the interim head coach is, beep, 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 Cadillac Williams is back at the helm at Auburn.
Really?
Yes, he was named the interim head coach. Cadillac Williams is back in the spotlight at Auburn. He's going to be the head coach. Everybody I talked to said, "Oh, Cadillac's back. He's gonna have those boys fired up. They'll beat Mississippi State outright." There is no possible way. No possible way. Mississippi State's playing good. The wide receivers are doing phenomenal. Will Rogers is throwing the ball well. We've even started running the ball more, which is a surprise in the air raid. I think this is all Mississippi State. I think Auburn's going to be down, especially with Harrison losing his job. The only bright spot is Cadillac's back, but Cadillac ain't playing. So I love Mississippi State in this.
I like Mississippi State too. I think that was pretty personal. John Cohen leaving and going to take that AD job, and I think even though he hired Mike Leach, hopefully Mike Leach is going to want to kind of dot the I, so to speak, on this one and run that score up if he can. Give me the State laying the 13. Florida State at Miami. Miami just limping home here this year. They don't have a lot of heart, but they did find a way to win a low-scoring game in overtime last week. Big Daddy C, this is your pick here. Who you like? Florida State 7.5 on the road in heated interstate rivalry against Miami. Over under 53.
Yeah, we've talked about in rivalry games, it's probably always best to take the points, especially if it's home points. But in this one, I just don't see how you can do it. Miami stinks. They're awful. I mean, they only scored 12 points, I think, in 4 overtimes last week. They're just awful. They're going to get outscored by Florida State. Florida State's going to dominate them. I love Florida State here. It's my third winner I'm going to give out this week. You didn't come to me on that Mississippi State. I got a little sick in my stomach when I heard that Badlands liked them, but he couldn't stop me on Tennessee or Minnesota Vikings last week. So let's just say, hope he can't stop me on Mississippi State here this week. So I like Mississippi State and Florida State to complete my 3 winners I'm giving out this week in college football.
Oh, that's an add-on there. I didn't have that one down for you. Are you saying the Mississippi State's a big play as well?
Yes, I sent you that. You just didn't get it.
I missed it. Oh my goodness, we missed a big play. Big Daddy C1000. He loves bully minus the 13. Let me give him his props along with Florida State here minus the 7.5. All right, as we go to break, I want to pop up our college football summary board. We'll go over this, our big plays in college football. Your host, Jason Nall, on Friday night. I like the Huskies, Washington, holding serve at home to win by 4.5 or more, cover that 4.5 point spread against Oregon State. And then give me guns up, Texas Tech, the Red Raiders on the road at the Horned Frogs of TCU plus the 9.5. Big Daddy C, he likes Ohio State minus 38. Give him Mississippi State minus 13 and Florida State minus 7.5. A 3-pack of favorites for Big Daddy C 1000. Badlands, Brandon, no hangover for Kentucky post Neyland Stadium. He thinks they bounce right back and grab the win, take Kentucky in a pick'em. North Carolina outscores Virginia easily. He says lay the 7.5 with the Tar Heels. And finally, his Baylor Bears catching. That's a misprint on our screen. They're catching 3.5 at Oklahoma. Take Baylor and take the points. Don't go anywhere. Nall or Nuthin. We'll be right back, and we will cover NFL football. Welcome back. It's Nall or Nuthin, and it's your host, Jason Nall. Whether you're catching us on 101.3 The Buzz on your FM dial in Cleveland, Tennessee, or WNWS TV and WNWS.com, you are in the right place for sports gambling at its greatest. We try to take a look at the weekend sports card through the lens of legalized sports gambling here in Tennessee, give you all the winners, or at least be your starting point as you begin to do your work on the weekend's games. Let's jump into the National Football League Thursday night. Philadelphia Eagles, a big old 14-point favorite on the road at the Texans, over under 45. Undefeated Philadelphia, Big Daddy C. What do you think on this Thursday night soiree?
I mean, you got to take Philly or nothing. How can you go against them? They're undefeated. They're putting up a lot of points this week. They look like they're the best team or one of the best teams in the NFL. So for me, it's got to be Philly or nothing.
Philly laying 14, that is a big league spread and laying a lot of points in professional football. It's nothing for me. I can't lay the 14 with Philly. Buffalo Bills will go to Sunday at the New York Jets. The Jets came down to earth, lost their 14th straight to the Patriots at home this past Sunday, and now the big, bad Buffalo Bills just look absolutely unstoppable to me. They go into the Meadowlands laying 12.5 over under 47. What in the world can the Jets do, if anything, with the Bills, Badlands?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything with them. Buffalo, the much superior team. I've got a chance to watch them a couple times this year, and they look they look a lot like world beaters. So, I just don't think there's going to be anything that can stop them or slow them down. So I think the play's got to be Buffalo here.
I agree. I think Buffalo. This is one of my favorite games of the week, even though it's not a Play Tour X birdie play of the week. I like the Bills minus the 12.5. I like them teased down and 2-game teasers minus 6.5 as well. The Vikings at Commanders. Big Daddy C. The Vikings again a 3.5-point favorite. This time on the road. Over under 43.5. Kirk Cousins goes back to Washington.
Yeah, the Vikings are for real. I was on the Vikings last week and they covered, and I'm going to ride the trend. The trend's going to be your friend. Get on the Vikings here, and you're going to win again. They're playing good. They got a good offense. The Commanders aren't that good, so take the Vikings here, and you'll be a winner.
Big Daddy C, big plays of the week. His first NFL play, he likes the Vikings again, minus 3.5. A short spread at home last week. It scared me off. It didn't scare Big Daddy C, and the Vikings got a handle against Arizona. He'll take them again with a short spread, laying just 3.5 in Washington. Keep it with you, Big Daddy C. Miami Dolphins laying 5 on the road at the Bears, who scored points the last 2 weeks. They got a big win on Monday Night Football in New England. Could not win at Dallas, but did score over under 45.5.
Yeah, the Bears are playing a lot better. I mean, they're putting out an effort, but I just say when Miami has Tua, they're just a different team. I mean, they're just a scoring team, and I like them. I think they're going to beat Chicago here. I think it'll just come down to they'll outscore them. So this is going to be my second big bet play in the NFL to be Miami. I love Miami here.
Well, Miami laying 5, second road game in a row on the road. They played at Detroit last week, trailed at the half, came back and won fairly easily in the second half, and now we're going to ask them to go win outdoors in Chicago, although the weather appears to have cleared out of there from the night before. It should be a soggy field, but not the rain and wind that they're going to see up in that area for the Notre Dame game on Saturday night. He likes the Dolphins, laying the 5. Green Bay, what a mess. Did not pick up a receiver at the trade deadline. Funny story. The Bears put the block on Aaron Rodgers and kept them from getting a receiver in free agency from the Packers, and the Bears took that receiver, and from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bears stole that player from the Steelers, and the Packers got nothing. No help for Rodgers. The misery continues, but the Lions just aren't playing good. Green Bay Packers laying 4 on the road at Detroit. At some point, the Packers have to bounce back, but I'm not going to chase them. I'm going to hope they lose again. No bet for me there, Big Daddy C. Are the Packers going to bounce back against this 1-6 Lions team?
I would say yes. They're probably going to bounce back. Will I play it? No, I probably won't. But the Lions are just awful. I mean, the Lions got to be right there at the bottom of the pack in the NFL. They're definitely one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NFL. So I think Green Bay will beat them just simply because they're better. But, I won't be playing it.
All right. LA Chargers. They're kind of reeling too, but they're coming off a bye. And this is a must-win if you look at their schedule. It doesn't get any easier than this game. They're at Atlanta. Atlanta has been playing spirited. Won last week in overtime. Chargers a small favorite, 3.5, over under 49.5. If the Chargers get it together and take care of this Atlanta team, which has definitely overachieved so far this year.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take Atlanta at home. I mean, they're playing good. They're finding ways to win. I like Atlanta in this one.
All right, he likes Atlanta. Badlands brand of Joe Burrow without Chase, without his top receiver. They didn't look good at all on Monday Night Football. Now they're a 7.5-point favorite against this Carolina Panthers team that really has much of nothing. Can the Bengals find a way to win without what's Chase's last name?
Chase is his last name, Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase, excuse me. Can the Bengals find a way to win without Jamar Chase, who's going to be out for the next 5 weeks? Bengals 7.5.
Yeah, I still think the Bengals are probably going to be the better team. Uh, Having Chase out really hurts. So, I mean, anytime you lose a guy like that who's one of your top targets, and then you got to worry about how that affects the chemistry of the team and the play calling and everything else without having Chase in the lineup. Um, I would probably take Cleveland in this one, and I might tease it down just to be on the safe side. just to make sure. But yeah, I would probably tease this one down.
All right, he likes the Bengals. Maybe tease them down to minus the 1.5 and put them with the Bills minus 6.5. Indianapolis Colts broke my heart. I needed them when they brought in Sam Ellinger last week, and they found a way to lose. They found a way to lose in overtime. Now they're catching 5.5 at New England. Big Daddy C. New England just an average team, but they ought to be able to win at home. What do you think against these Colts, who fired their offensive coordinator, by the way?
Yeah, well, maybe that'll help, but the Colts, they just have absolutely just stunk it up this year. I will give the Colts no chance until they just prove me wrong and win 2 or 3 in a row. So, yes, I'll take New England at home in this one.
I agree. Let's take the Patriots and say they don't lose 2 in a row at home, considering they lost on Monday Night Football embarrassingly to the Bears. Raiders at Jaguars. I'm just not going to talk about this game. Big Daddy C. The line is Raiders minus 1.5, over under 48. Both of these teams have kicked me square in the boys over the last month.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's an awful matchup. I mean, the Raiders, they just can't seem to get it done. They just can't seem to get a win, and Jacksonville's not really consistent. So I don't really have a very strong opinion here, but I would probably just take Jacksonville at home.
Badlands, is Trevor Lawrence going to be an NFL quarterback?
Well, I don't really know, but no, I wouldn't think so.
I mean, such high hopes. He's probably one of the most disappointing
Well, I mean,
quarterbacks that I've seen come up
um,
wow with that much press.
well, no, I mean, you look at what he did when he was in college, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to go into the NFL and he's going to just light it up," and everybody talks about the year he had at Clemson, but the NFL is a totally different, totally different animal than college football is. But with the way Trevor Lawrence is playing, he might not have a job come too much longer.
Yeah, he may not. All right, Seahawks at Arizona Cardinals. Seahawks, another surprise to the good to the halfway point of the season. Geno Smith has looked better than Russell Wilson did in Seattle last year, and then the Seahawks have a winning record, and they're right in the thick of things in the division, but they go down to Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals are reeling. Every job, Cliff Kingsbury has his job on the line. He's sitting on the highest of the hot seats. I think it reverts to the mean. I like Arizona minus the 2 here. This is one of my birdie plays of the week. I really like Arizona to get the win at home. They really should have won if it weren't for bad coaching and bad quarterback mistakes down the stretch in Minnesota. They would have won that game. I say they find a way to win at home, and they beat this upstart Seahawks team. Give me the Arizona Cardinals laying the 2. That's my first birdie play of the week in the NFL. I think they find a way to win at home, and I think Seattle may be a little bit out over their skis with the start of this season, and they revert back more toward their win total as we go through the back half of the season. The Rams at the Buccaneers. Here's a couple of teams that are just terrible. The Rams, the worst record against the spread through 8 games for a Super Bowl champion since the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles. The Rams are just 2-6 against the spread. In this season following their Super Bowl win, they got embarrassed by their big rival, San Francisco. Took me down with them. I gave the Rams a little too much credit. Thought they could beat their rival at home. No way, no how. They got curb stomped by the 49ers. The Buccaneers, they can't get out of their own way either. And Tom Brady's divorce is now final. That's key. Maybe this is the bounce back game for Brady. The divorce is final. He doesn't have to think about that anymore. He knows how many dollars he lost to a woman that's richer than him, and he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. So let's say maybe a bounce back spot for Brady. Big Daddy C, Buccaneers minus 3 at home, or the Rams catching 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I think both of these teams are playing bad. Both of these teams are going to end up bad. So I think I would probably in this one just take a shot on the under, saying that there's not much scoring because neither team's done a whole lot of scoring in the last few games. So I'll play this one, and I'll probably just put a little pizza money on the under in this one.
Little pizza money on the under. I could live with that too. And yes, scoring has not come in bunches for either one of these teams. Tennessee Titans at Kansas City Chiefs. The Titans, again, are expected to be without Tannehill. Can the former Liberty quarterback and Mr. Derrick Henry play him close in Kansas City Badlands, Brandon? The Chiefs, 12.5, over under 46. Chiefs coming off a bye.
Yeah, I think so. I think Kansas City will continue back on their ways. Not really sure though. Not really sure about the spread in this one. I might even do a three teaser and maybe even tease that one down and just run a three game teaser with my other one and just do it that way. I think that would probably make me feel a little bit safer to get away from that high.
Well, you can do that. A 3-game teaser using the Chiefs. You get 10 points. You can take them down to under a field goal, minus just 2.5. Not a bad idea if you ask me. I do think the Chiefs will likely get that win at home. Although last year the Titans scored some amazing midseason upsets. One of them was over the Chiefs, but that was in Tennessee. Chiefs will get this win. Chiefs will get it. I like your idea of a 3-game teaser there too, Badlands. And then we'll close it out with Monday night, and that's my final Play Tour X Birdie play of the week. I'll go ahead and slap that graphic up now. I don't think I'm reading too much into this when I tell you New Orleans has probably got the best chance of anybody to win that NFC South division. It is an absolute dumpster fire between the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the aging GOAT, and now quarterback by committee. Actually, they're going to go with the Red Rifle, I think, down the stretch, Andy Dalton and the New Orleans Saints. But the Saints really did look good at home last week and shutting out the Raiders. Traditionally, they've been a very tough out on Monday night. You didn't want to bet against New Orleans in the Superdome on Monday night. I'm going to say that rings true again. They find a way to win. I like them on the money line plus 115, but if you feel better about it, go ahead and take that 2.5 points against Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have been inconsistent, good at times, terrible at times. I'm just going to go past history and say the Saints are tough on Monday night. Nothing changes this time. Give me the Saints plus the 2.5, and that is my final birdie play of the week. Let's pop them up here. Let's get our NFL summary board up, and we will cover that as we get ready to head out of here. Your host, Jason Nall. I like Arizona laying the 2 at home. And I like the New Orleans Saints catching 2.5 on Monday night. Big Daddy C, he likes the Vikings laying 3.5 again this week. This time on the road. Kirk Cousins back to Washington. And then the Dolphins laying 5 at Chicago, their second road game in a row. That's going to wrap up Nall or Nothing for this week. For Big Daddy C 1000 and Badlands Brandon, I'm your host, Jason Nall. It has been our pleasure, but we are out of here.
I said, united we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. There is